I want to give people the punchline because you were making 180 grand a year
Yeah,
and then you go making zero. And
yeah.
then what's the most you've ever made in a year?
I think our biggest year, my take home with distributions and salary was like to think back, 1.36, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Okay. All right. Now, do you believe you would have ever made that kind of money if you didn't get laid off or let go of that position?
No, no, absolutely not. I think about that all the time.
Welcome to the Not a Financial Advisor podcast, where we talk money, mindset, and mistakes without pretending to have it all figured out. I'm Chase, and my mission is simple to help you maximize your potential and think differently about freedom, business, and wealth. You'll hear from people who are actually doing it, building businesses, growing wealth, and living life on their terms. I'm glad you're here. Enjoy the episode.
I think my whole family loves music, and it is a very big part of our life. So we moved into this house a couple of years ago. We decided we're going to make this little office area into a music room, and got a couch and all kinds of stuff in here, so we could kind of come in here and chill and play music and beat on the drums when we're really frustrated and mad. And
Meet my good friend Jason Hall. I've known Jason for over 12 years now. We first met when he was buying a house, and over time, he and his wife have become close friends of mine. Since then, they've built multiple successful businesses, from a local franchise to one of the most efficient Amazon delivery operations in the region. In 2020, we even partnered on a fleet of 30 Amazon vans for his company. In this episode, we talk about risk, reinvention, and what it really takes to build freedom through business. I guess just take us, maybe back to the beginning. I mean, when I met you, you were working for Western States Cat, right? Like you were working for a company, you were an
yeah,
employee,
yeah.
and if I recall, there were some layoffs, and you were part of that, right?
Yeah, so I worked for Caterpillar for a number of years in a number of different roles. In the San Francisco Bay Area, I worked for Caterpillar in the Marine Propulsion Group and doing some of the smaller power generation stuff. And then when we moved to Idaho, we kind of I had responsibility for the electric power generation group here for Western States Cat, which covers parts of Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, and just a few counties in Wyoming, I believe. So we had lots of projects that took place with that. I worked for them starting, I believe, in 2004 until 2014. So I was with them for about 10 years.
So you're with them for 10 years. We'll talk about what happened and all
Yeah.
that briefly. We don't have to dig into it, but then your wife started a business, I think around that time, right?
Yeah, so my wife she bought a franchise, and I guess it was the end of 2013, and we opened the first location in June of 2014.
Got it.
Yep,
Yeah. So it wasn't already operating. It was a franchise and she brought it to the area,
that's correct.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And
She
and
had
then
she's a graphic designer by trade. That's what she went to school for, and she had some other small, side gig type businesses, or I guess she did them for a living for a number of years. When we first had our first child, she was doing that on the side and generating actually a great living designing and building websites for people, which she ironically didn't even learn through her schooling. She learned that through just a job that she had got when we lived in Sacramento while she was going to school. It's just a side gig job, and they kind of taught her how to do all that, and she started a business with it and kind of grew it from there. But she stopped doing that when she started the franchise. Yeah.
that's awesome. So if I'm just giving people the high level and then we're going to dig in, like the high level is you and your wife both, have started businesses, built businesses, exited out of those businesses.
Yeah.
So you've been an employee, you've had to transition and figure out what to do.
Yeah.
I guess if I was asking, what you're known for, or you and your wife are known for, we'll leave her out of it. We're just talking to you today. I mean, she's awesome. She's a rock star, by the way, power
Yeah.
couple.
Yeah.
But what is Jason known for? Like, what would you say would be, some professional highlights or something that people know about you in business?
Yeah, I think all of us have eras of our professional life. There's things that if I were specifically talking about my mid 20s through my mid 30s, I think that I would certainly be known for something different than what I'm known for today. If I were known for anything, I sure hope so. Yeah, and I try to do certain things, but my roles in the corporate world and what I did in the corporate world was certainly different than what I was able to accomplish as an entrepreneur and or investor, for that matter. The things that I hope that as an entrepreneur, the things that I hope that are the banners that I fly, or that we've never, none of our companies have ever been like these. We're hiring engineers or these high level people. All of them have been. We're hiring cosmetologists, estheticians. We're hiring drivers for delivery vans. Those are the types of people that we worked with. And I hope that the banner that I'm able to fly is that we really provided a great place of employment for these guys, gave them opportunities to grow. Every single person in leadership within any of our companies, whether it's my company or the companies that Brooke has led, have all been from within. And the guy that runs our biggest operations, he started as a driver making 15 bucks on day one, 15 bucks an hour on day one, worked really hard, and now he is the president of a relatively large organization running, you millions and millions of dollars worth of revenue through his through that operation. All those people came from the very start, delivering packages or sitting at the front desk at the franchise or something along those lines. So I hope that we've provided opportunities. I hope we've been fair and reasonable with people as we've gone through all of that. So I hope I hope that's what we're known for. When I go visit employees today, that's typically what they talk to me about. Is I wasn't expecting to love a job like I love it, and that's not the case for everyone. We can't make everyone happy, but I do hear that a lot, and it's something that makes me incredibly proud to fly as my banner. I guess is what I'm known for.
Yeah, well, I would say that's pretty accurate too. So this is interesting. A couple of gems in there. I mean, you got a lot of stuff. I just want to kind of break it down for people. So first of all, you've run some big organizations, which we're going to get into deeper, much deeper here. But secondly, you said that you're. Hey guys, I paused the video. I paused it super fast. I just want to say thank you so much for watching this. And if you're getting anything out of it, anything of value at all, do me a favor, hit that like button. It helps me out a ton. Thank you so much. And now back to the rest of the show. If I was an employee for an organization, I would be thinking like, just because of whatever my role is today doesn't mean that's going to be my role in the future.
Yeah.
So, if you show up and do the right things, like people, especially if you work with good people, they're going to be looking for ways to uh, um, really grow their organization and grow their opportunities through the people they have. It's hard to go find new people.
And we started that in November of 2018. And I remember sitting there probably that first year, wondering, number one, wondering how we're going to do it, because there's so much work and so much time in the beginning, and just trying to figure things out. I remember thinking, how are we going to keep employees? I mean, we're paying these guys 15 bucks an hour. That was 2018. It was an okay wage. It was not anything groundbreaking, but is an okay wage. But how are we going to keep these guys engaged? Because at the time, I think, we had, we were delivering packages for people. I think we had 15 or 20 vans that were running, and we were running 7 days a week. But you know, where is the advancement opportunity for those people that want to stay? Are they just going to keep making 15 bucks an hour? I can't double their wage and make it a career thing for someone. It's just not in the books. So a lot of that. a lot of how we ended up came from those first days of being scared that we weren't going to be able to take care of the people that we needed to take care of, or keep people employed for that matter. That was not too far off of the 2020 COVID times when we literally would hire anyone with the pulse. And I was talking to someone about this the other day. I said, we lost the soul of our company because we were just hiring anyone with the soul. We weren't hiring people to, to continue our vision or continue our culture or anything along those lines. So how we are in such a better position today from that, because we really have been able to lock it back down and just say, look, these are the type of people that we're looking for. But our business grew overnight. Our business doubled overnight, pretty close to overnight, just because so many people started ordering online or were forced to order online. And
real quick, Jason, because I'm going to go deep. I'm going to go deep into that. Let's just set the table. So you're an employee at a Fortune 500 company, right? Like, and something happens and you don't work there anymore.
right.
What was going through your head at that time?
Oh, at the time where I'm not working there anymore, it was the worst time of my life. It was the absolute worst time of my life. I had found success all the way through my career and had always advanced. And then when that ended, it was the worst time of my life. I have never felt more. Um, I've never felt worse about my own self personally. I've never been more scared for my family.
Insecure, I'm sure, right? Like you.
There you go. That's the word that I was looking for. I've never felt more insecure about what I did or what I was doing, and all those things. And so, it was a big challenge. I had a little boy, and a baby boy, and a boy that was 3 years old. I have two boys. And I remember the day that all that took place, I was supposed to take my son camping. And I went home and I'm talking to my wife, and he's like, and she said, you still got to take him camping. And so we drove up to Idaho City and found a little camp spot. And I remember putting him into bed in the tent and sitting out there by the fire, and I was just like, I was sobbing because I didn't know what to do. It was that day and that evening, and I just did not know what to do, and it was so scary. But that led, honestly, so quick. It led into so many. Number one, so many people coming out of the woodworks to support. But number two, it provided so many really cool opportunities, opportunities that you wouldn't think were life changing. One of my friends owned the Great Harvest franchise here in Meridian, and he said, "Oh, you can come to work for me, working the bread counter and selling cinnamon rolls or sandwiches or whatever." And I ended up working for that guy for about a year, making $11 an hour, and I had a little bit of money saved, so it wasn't like we really had to, but I really, really enjoyed it. I needed the money. I wasn't working. I needed something to do, but it became one of my favorite things I've ever done because I could go in there. At the time, come from where I came from, having all that corporate pressure on my shoulders and all that stuff going on, to being able to go in there. And this guy had such a great culture going. You went in there and, there's good music and people were having fun and, laughing and all that. So going into that environment, having virtually no stress, and it's my buddy's place, so I could look at things and be like, hey man, what if we tried it this way? And he was always game to do stuff. And like, I had so much fun working in a bakery after coming from being, a director level leadership at a large company to working, helping people order sandwiches or getting them a cinnamon roll was probably my favorite time in terms of just enjoying my job and really connecting with
So
people.
let's set the table here. How much money roughly were you making at the job that you didn't have anymore? How much were you making there roughly?
I was making, so I was bonus, so I was a salary, and then I had 100% of my salary available as bonus. Typically, I'd hit about 75% of that. So I was making about 175, 180 grand a year.
Okay, so you went from making $180,000 a year
About $11 an
to
hour.
to
Yeah.
making 11 bucks an hour. And it
Yeah.
was the best time of your life, which is
Getting
funny.
my ass up at 6 o'clock in the morning too. Yeah, which I'm
Making
not a
bread.
morning
Okay.
guy.
So
Yeah.
so obviously, there's a gap there before you start your next business. And
Mhm.
maybe we'll have your wife on another time cuz she started some businesses and you helped out. So we can talk about that. She started a franchise. Was that how long after the layoff did that happen?
So it was actually a couple months before
Oh, okay, got it.
we opened it. Now, if we want to set the table on that, we had been open for a couple months. We were losing money like crazy in those first couple months.
It's a
We brought a
great time
brand
to
new.
lose your income.
Yeah, we were going to lose the income. We were losing money within the franchise. I remember we had in that first store we had two partners. One was my wife's brother, and the other was a friend that grew up with her, and we all kind of became friends. And so they wouldn't put in huge investments or anything along those lines. But I remember writing an email to those guys saying, "Hey, look, I lost my job. We have to." We have to run this new company, and I have to try to find another job, and get all that stuff figured out. Is it? And we did not negotiate into our partnership agreement a salary for Brooke for running this company and doing all the stuff that she was doing. And so I was like, hey, can we take a small salary out of the company? And they're like, nope. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, here we go. So we were losing money. Uh, uh, didn't have any income. That lasted, probably 6 months, and then we
Well,
were
there's
able
an
to.
interesting lesson in partnership because I know a lot of people are wanting to do partnerships, and
Mhm.
you learned a pretty valuable lesson there. Like, hold on, if we're going to be doing all the work and our partnerships are somewhat equivalent or have some sort of equivalency, like, shouldn't
Yeah.
we get paid for doing the work?
Yeah, this was our first business partnership that we'd entered into, and it's something that I just kind of did off the cuff, or Brooke and I kind of did off the cuff, and put this thing together. We had a lawyer kind of draw everything up and do all that stuff, but the framework of it, I just was kind of spitballing. We needed some cash to for the equity injection to get the SBA loan, and we needed about 90. So I must have had more than 20 grand. I thought I had 20 grand when I stopped working. Must have more than that because we had 40 grand to put into the franchise. We needed another 40 grand. So we sold off 19% of the equity of the company for 40,000 bucks is what we did. But there's so many lessons that we learned within it. Some of them good lessons, some of them things I vow to never do again as well. One of the things people don't think about, it's always great when you need money and you need the help, and it's easy to take people's money. But what happens when the business is doing well? It ended up at the end where we were writing, $10,000 checks to these guys every month. And number one, they had zero participation in the business. And I'm not saying this in a negative way, but they had zero participation in the business. They put 20 grand in, and they're getting a $10,000 check every month.
Hey,
Yeah.
hey, sign me up, man. I'll be an investor in your next business.
So from my perspective, I'm like, well, we couldn't have done it without them. We definitely couldn't have done. We needed their money. We needed to sell that equity off. But at the same time, like, goodness gracious, man, they're making 100 grand a year on a $20,000 investment that they made, 4 years
Yeah,
ago.
the challenge. I mean, I think something to bring up there is like the opportunity for growth and learning there for you is very simple. It's that it's not that they didn't deserve whatever. It's just you should have now to structure the deal differently. If you need
Right.
money like that,
Yep.
maybe it tapers off or maybe it maxes out or something.
Right.
Because if you would have said, hey, give me 20 grand and I'll give you X.
Yeah.
But after I paid you 50, you go down to whatever, 5% or
Mhm.
zero or whatever. They probably have been like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I've done several partnerships since then, and exactly what you said is how we've structured every single one of them since that point. Except for things where I'm like we've done some stuff together where we're 50-50. Obviously, that's a different deal. But these things where we just are looking for a really limited partner, I think there should be a limited time frame on a limited partnership. So
Yeah. All right. Well, that makes sense. So now, I want to give people the punchline because you were making 180 grand a year,
yeah.
and then you go making zero, and
Yeah.
then what's the most you've ever made in a year?
I think our biggest year, my take home with distributions and salary was like to think back, 1.36, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Okay. All right. Now, do you believe you would have ever made that kind of money if you didn't get laid off or let go of that position?
No, no, absolutely not. I think about that all the time. It's something that is that is a thought that occupies space often in my brain for sure. Yeah.
So tell me, like, what when you're in the depths of the pain, right? You're crying in front of a freaking
Yeah.
fire with your 3 year old in a tent, and you're like, "What the hell am I gonna do?"
Yeah.
Like, how can you see? Because someone right now who's watching this or listening to this is thinking like, "Holy shit, I'm in the depths right now."
Yeah.
How can you forge through to see the light? Because it often is the worst things that happen to you end up being the best things. It just takes time.
You know, I think that's probably different for everyone. I think having for me, one of the things was having a great partner. My wife is a rock star. You had mentioned it before. She's such a great businesswoman, but she's also a great mom, and she's a great wife as well. Just a quick story on that may tie into that. I remember when she came up with the idea to buy this franchise. I was like, I don't know what the hell you're thinking, but if that's what you want to do, let's do it. And so we went and met with the franchise. They said, okay, figure out your funding and all that stuff, and then we'll give you the franchise license. And so we started shopping around banks. We went to Zions Bank. We went to DL Evans. We went to just about every bank I could think of. And we had a whole packet that I put together. We'd set up meetings. At the time, I'm not sure if you could still do it anymore, but we'd set up meetings with their investment or their loan group. So there'd be like 4 or 5 people. We'd do a presentation for them or whatever. And all of them said, every single freaking one of them said no. And I remember one of them.
I'm thinking of Gru and the very first Despicable Me, and he's trying to get a loan from the bank, and they deny him.
They
That's what
deny
I'm
it.
thinking. I'm envisioning you in
Yeah,
these waiting rooms with all your presentation.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, man. So at one point, we'd probably been denied by 7 or 8 banks, I would say, and I was just like, this is just not going to happen. There was one more bank that we were waiting for a response from, and I remember my buddy and I went golfing for the. It was like a cheap golf time, and we went golfing at this golf course, and we're standing there on a green, and my wife calls, or no, the bank called and said, "Hey, we're not going to do your deal. Apologize." And I called my wife and I said, "This is the end. I'm sorry. I feel like we tried everything," and she's like, "It's not the end. Let's keep going." And literally like days later, she found a bank in this little bank in Texas called Spirit of Texas Bank. No one's ever heard of Spirit of Texas Bank. Spirit of Texas Bank somehow had a program for this franchise. And they said, here's our program for the franchise. It's a take it or leave it deal. And we had to inject, I think was 80 or 90 grand into the deal. And then they would give us the SBA loan. But we leveraged our house and we leveraged our cars. We leveraged every single thing that we ever had, life insurances and all kinds of stuff. We leveraged all that to get that first loan on the deal. I guess where this ties into the question that you're asking, when you come up against a roadblock, in my opinion, you have three choices. You can turn around and go back the way that you came, which is probably the easiest route to take. You can fuss around and try to find a way around the roadblock, or you can put your head down. You could charge through it, and that's always been the mentality that we've taken. Not always, for the most part, the mentality that we've taken, whether it be business ventures or whether it's our investment strategies or anything along those lines. It's put your head down and let's go for it. Let's take a little bit of risk. Let's get moving as fast as we can and try to bust through. I'm not suggesting that's always the right way. A lot of things get broken that way. We've been fortunate, and I feel like we've done it as much as we can. And while being as caring and empathetic as possible as well. So I think that strategy has worked for us, but it's also something. I don't know if you could have a relationship or have a partner that one is the turn around, go the other way, and one is the bull, charge through it type. So it works.
It sounds like both of you were trying to charge through it, and then at one point you were like, "Hey, we're going. Let's go back."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
a
I think
fair
I think
thing,
I
I
think
think, to consider there.
I think that the risk, one of the risks with charging through it is that at some point you can't do it anymore. You charging through it means doing stuff the hard way. Busting through a brick wall is not easy. No matter how fast you're going, it's going to hurt, and there's going to be painful points of it and things along those lines. And it's no different in life or in business. When you have that mentality, it sucks sometimes, and it gets overwhelming, and the grind is real, and it's real hard sometimes, and dealing with that on an emotional basis, on a financial basis, on whatever you want, whatever perspective you want to look at it from, you know, it's not an easy road to go down if you are constantly charging. So sometimes it's easier to go the other way if you can go
Yeah, well,
around,
I mean,
maybe.
I would say probably more often than not, it's easier to go the
Yeah.
other way, right? So,
Also, I think your situation dictates some of that stuff too. Like if I'm broke and I need money and there's money on the other side of the wall, I'm going to do everything I can to charge through that wall. I'm going to put my head down and go. But if I got enough money in my bank account and there's a brick wall in front of me, maybe I can afford to go around the wall or figure out a way around the wall, or just not even go down, just turn around and go home. Sometimes it's better just to turn around and go home. Sometimes you pick a fight with the wrong person, and you recognize before you get your ass kicked. So
so let's, we've talked about some of these turning points for you, like obviously getting laid off, and now, you're have debt from this new business, by the way. So it's fun fact: if you start a business, it doesn't mean you make money.
yeah.
And so how do you think, because there was some risky stuff, so we'll just spend a minute or two here. How do you think about risk and opportunity today?
I think that's also one of those things that shift. I am not a risk adverse person. We take risks all the time. I view risk as a necessary component of both investing and entrepreneurship. I think if you are going to be successful in those two realms, you have to have some level of risk taking ability, or the ability to stomach risk, because a lot of times the outlay for that, both time and monetarily, is so great that it stifles a lot of people. Yeah, I have lots of friends that always talk about business, and that oh man, I'd love to do a business, I'd love to do an investment or something along those lines. And these are people that have W-2 jobs and work at their jobs and are successful with those jobs. I've brought several things to those people, and they're like, "Oh, well, I don't know if I can do that." I don't know what that feeling is like. Again, my whole professional career has been put your head down and charge through whatever roadblock or wall that you have in front of you. The concept of like looking at something and the numbers make sense and like everything points to you should do it, and then saying no, like that just does not resonate with me. I get it and empathize with it. Like I don't question whether someone should make that decision for them or not, but I don't know how you make that decision. Maybe I'm a bad person to ask that question too, because I because maybe I don't fully understand it. But our risk level, our entire marriage, we've been married 23 years, and our entire marriage we have taken risk after risk after risk. And
Well, yeah,
fortunately,
I mean,
we've got more times than not for us.
asking someone to marry you is a risk, right? Like
Sure.
it's
Yeah.
you don't know who you don't know everything about them, right? Until you're
Yeah.
fully
Yeah.
locked in, and I think investing by definition involves risk, right? There's if it I mean there are levels of risk, but like if you go buy treasuries today, which are arguably the lowest risk of any investment out there, there's still a risk, right? There's
There's
still
still a
some
risk.
sort of risk there that debt does not get paid back. So everything above and beyond that just gets riskier and riskier and riskier.
I think
But
there's different flavors of that as well. There's different flavors of risk.
well,
And
let's dive into that because we're talking about. I want to go into money and investing real quick. Like, how has your view of money evolved over time?
in some ways, it hasn't changed. I feel like, when you're broke and you're like, oh man, if I had $1 million in the bank today, you know what I would do? I would just be loving life, man. I wouldn't be worried about anything. I'd just be doing what I want to do. And then you get $1 million in the bank and you feel the exact same way. You feel exactly the same way. You are
It might
still,
even feel a little bit worse because now you're like, what do I do with all this money? I don't want to lose it. It should be making me money.
yeah,
If you were in
yeah,
2021, there was 9% inflation. So if you had a million in the bank, now it's worth nine hundred
you're right.
ninety
Nine
thousand or
hundred,
nine
yeah,
hundred ten thousand
nine
dollars. So you
hundred ten
just
thousand.
lost 90 grand.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it adds a different layer of stress. Like you were stressed about making money, now you're stressed about protecting and
yeah.
keeping it. So
I grew up in fact, my dad was an incredibly hard worker, and my parents had the entrepreneur bug as well. They had some times when they're successful, but ultimately, they weren't able to prove themselves out successful for the long haul with those businesses. But so I grew up without. There wasn't money was not prevalent around our house. We struggled in a lot of different ways, despite how hard of a worker my dad was. I think that has guided my relationship with money in a lot of ways for a long time. It guided me as I was trying to make my initial first steps. I remember, when I got my first good job, I went and spent my paychecks just like any other dumb 20-year-old would do, or 19-year-old, whatever old I was. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so great. I can go out to eat. I can, change the oil in my car without having to worry about, all those things. I was probably making 40 grand a year. It wasn't like a big, but I was big balling, dude. I thought coming from how I grew up, I could buy Hostess cupcakes if I wanted to, and that was a big deal. I probably shouldn't have bought as much of them as I did, but nevertheless, I was able to do some of those things, but it quickly dawned on me that my relationship with money was not healthy, especially if I didn't want to end up in the same way as I grew up, where money was always the struggle. We're trying to figure out how to, in some cases, how to have food to eat, and things along those lines. So I feel like when I was, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old, I had collected $18 worth of pennies in this plastic pig, and I went and opened my first bank account. And my parents always knew that because I did that. My parents always knew that I was going to be fine in terms of money. They didn't know how I was going to figure myself out personally, but monetarily, they thought that I was going to be okay. But it really has guided me in my views on money have always been founded in a little bit of fear that I'm going to end up back in that type of situation, which has guided choices negatively and positively for me, by the way. But
So
also,
how does that, just super fast? How does it guide you negatively? Like how has it gotten in the way?
I am not a risk adverse person. And when you are scared to lose your money, you become risk adverse, which is against my nature. And I think I've made bad choices in some cases because I was just scared. I was scared of losing what I have.
So if a good opportunity was in front of you, you might not jump on it because of the fear of losing money.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's like just for fun? What's the biggest thing you missed out on?
Um, I don't know if I have a specific one in mind. Uh, um, I'll give you a funny story. Maybe it's not an investment one, but my one of my best friends, he's also a business partner of mine. He said to me one one evening we were hanging out, and he said, you are the only dude with a little bit of money that I know that dresses like a homeless person, because I refuse to spend money, a bunch of money on clothes. I have a bunch of these plain tees that I wear because I'm such a cheap ass, because I'm like, I'm not going to waste my money in case I need it. I'm not going to waste my money on clothes. And I don't waste my money on anything other than I have a few things that I've splurged on, over the years that I love motorcycles. I have a fun truck that I really love to have. But other than that, most of my stuff is from a thrift store or something along those lines. Fortunately or unfortunately, I've passed that same behavior down to my boys as well. They love the same. They feel the same way as I do.
Well, I do think it's trendy for the kids nowadays. Right now, like thrifting is like a big deal. That's where they want to
It
go.
really, before my son had his license, that's all he wanted to do with his friends. Though we'd have to take him around to the thrift shops. Yeah, it's kind of
So
fun.
funny. So funny.
He's like, you're
Well, let's
in
jump
my
into
world,
like
man.
let's jump into the leadership side of things because obviously you built an organization in Boise Route Works. So, we haven't even got to that because we went to, the franchise that your wife and you had started. So Boise Route Works opportunity pops up. Is this 2017 or 18?
So it's 2018. Yeah,
Okay.
it kind
So
of
this is
pretty much over the
effectively
line.
a delivery service partnership with
Mhm.
Amazon, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so that opportunity comes to Boise, Idaho, and why did you decide like, oh, I'm qualified for this? How did that come about?
Uh, I don't know if I ever thought that I was qualified for it. I always viewed, I lived in the Bay Area for a long time, and during the time when like Facebook and Google and those places were emerging, and they were building these giant campuses with, there's slides coming down, they had cafes, whatever. That was not the environment that I worked at, but. And they even made movies, there's some movies about how hard it is to get a job at Google or, whatever that is. And I viewed Amazon in the same way. I just happened to one day be reading an article. Uh, I don't even fully remember the publication, but it was talking about the Amazon is launching this new program where you can deliver packages for them. And I was like, oh, I don't have anything else going. I might as well throw my hat in the ring. But there was no like I am qualified to do this, or I was like, well, my resume might show if I doctor it up enough to make it sound like I'm the successful franchisee of all this stuff. But at the time we were just kind of starting to become profitable. We had two stores at that point, but we were just starting to be profitable between the two stores. So I put my name. There's an interest form thing. You fill it out. It didn't even really ask that many questions. A little bit about your experience, so on and so forth. And I said, "We'll get back to you." And I filled that out in, I don't know, May. Yeah, it'd have been the end of May, right when they announced that program. And there was no email back that said, thanks for your submission. We'll be in touch. There was nothing. I go about my life, and in September, middle of September, I get an email that says, "Hey, you applied for this deal. Whenever we'd like to schedule an interview for you." And I wrote back immediately, like, "Man, I forgot about." I think I even said it in the email, like, "I completely forgot about this, but yeah, I'd love to do an interview with you guys." And they wrote back and said, "How does tomorrow sound?" And I was like, "Are you freaking kidding me? Like, I've been waiting, but like it's been months since I even thought about this, and you want to do an interview tomorrow? I got to figure out."
It's time to stop making bread, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, it's time to stop making bread. That's right. And so me and my buddy at the same time in June of 2018 had started a property management company. And so we were grinding with that. And so actually, I don't even think I told him at the time. I didn't tell him that I had this interview coming up the next day. So we did a phone interview. And at the end of the interview, this was on a Thursday, the guy said, "Hey, man, I think that went well. Would you be interested in coming and doing a face-to-face interview in Seattle?" And I was like, "Yeah, why not?" And he's like, "When are you available?" I'm like, "You tell me the time, buddy." Because I was working at the bread store. I didn't have a bunch of.
Did they pay for a flight, or did they make you drive down, or what happened?
No, they paid for a flight. They put me up in a hotel down on the wharf area. It's kind of cool. It's great. It was a great time. I was there for 2 days or 2.5 days, and it was great. Yeah. So this is on Thursday. We did the phone review. He said, "Do you want to come do the face to face?" I said, "Yes." "When are you available?" And I said, "Whenever." He's like, "Can you be here Sunday?" And I was like, "Really? Like this coming Sunday?" And he's like, "Yeah." And so I said, "Yep, let's do it." And so their travel people called me and got it all set up. I fly in, and on that Monday, they had some corporate drivers in Renton, Washington, I think it was. And so I went out and drove around with one of their corporate drivers for a day. And it's kind of fun. We just kind of did our thing. And then the next day,
Like delivering packages or what?
just delivering packages, yeah, in Renton, Washington, yeah. The program actually, the version of the program that they have today had not even launched at that point. If it had, it maybe had been one station across the United States. But anyway, the guy was like, "Just be prepared that we do these pod interviews where you sit in a room and then multiple people come and talk to you for short durations, like 15, 20 minutes or something like that." And so I went into the Amazon headquarters, and they sit me in this like white wall conference room little thing, and I sat there all morning. I got there like at 9, maybe an hour later. It was like a doctor's office. Like an hour later, someone came in and talked to me for a few minutes. They left. Another person came in a little bit later.
You're sitting in a room by yourself for an hour.
Yep, like a doctor's office.
I
Yep.
wonder if they had like cameras seeing what you're doing. Is he going to
Oh,
complain?
I'm sure they did. I'm sure that they did. And
That's actually
luckily,
super funny.
I had like Googled like Amazon interview tactics or something like that. And so I've been reading for a couple days like about their process. And so I kind of had an idea what to expect. And so yeah, they just would come in, then they'd leave, someone else would come in a little bit later and talk to me for a few minutes. And sometimes it's like it almost seemed like they had walked into the room by accident and just ended up sitting down talking to me for a few minutes. But it was kind of weird. But all the things online that I said that they said there was going to be someone, I can't remember what they called it. It's like an interrupter, someone that's going to come in and just mess with you. Just mess with you to try to get you to see how you deal with frustration. And so this guy comes in and he's like, "Oh man, tell me about your property management business." And I'm like, "Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm ready to talk about that." So we talked about it. He's like, "What about your lease? Can you show me your lease?" And I'm like, yeah, if you'd like, I could pull it up here on my phone. He's like, oh yeah, if you'll do that. And he spent like an hour grilling me about different sections of my lease. He's like, do you think this really is like solid enough to hold up in court? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Why are you going through my lease? I don't know. I don't know if he was that interrupter guy, but he was like grilling me and like digging in. And there were so many points where I was just like, I'm going to kill this dude. This dude is crazy. I don't know what his deal is. But anyway, so I get done with that. No one says anything to me. A guy comes in and says, okay, you're all done. You could head out. I go get in my car and I drive to the airport. And no, I'm not kidding you, dude. Before I even got to the airport, they called me and said, we want you, we're going to offer you a contract. Are you interested in accepting? And I said, yeah, of course. When does this start? And he says, you need to be back in Seattle next week. And that started everything. It went bonkers. They said, you need to be in Seattle for a week for some training stuff. I said, okay. So I go to Seattle the next week in my training on Wednesday. So halfway through the week, they said, oh, we need you to go to Chicago for another week. So I called my wife. I'm like, and I have little kids at home. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. But they're telling me that I have to go to Chicago now. And so I rented some room in some dude's basement for a week in Chicago, just outside of Chicago, and like worked at this warehouse. They had me doing all kinds of jobs in this warehouse. I had to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, it's kind of wild.
They offer you a job, but you got to go to Seattle, then you got to go to Chicago, and you had to pay for your own like room and stuff, or did they give you like a stipend?
No, I paid for all of that. Because at that point, I was a contract holder. I had signed the contract, and it's on me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. So
Yep.
they're compensating you in some manner, but let's fast forward to the end, and then we'll fill in some gaps. So you know the how many employees does Boise Route Works have?
Today, there's about 130 or so. That number probably will grow close to 200 in the next 3 weeks or so.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's the peak? Around 200 employees total.
Yeah, we'll probably have a little bit more than that because we're actually operating three different locations. We have our main location where we run the majority of our routes. We have a temporary location that we operate over in Twin Falls, Idaho, where we have about 60 drivers over there. So I think the number is probably higher than 200. It's probably close to 200 today because we have about 60 employees over there.
So
And then
before
we have
the
a
holidays,
third
you'll be
one.
even more than probably 250 or whatever.
Yeah, we're continually growing. Both of those locations just continue to grow. And then we have a third location where we're doing some fun stuff actually, where we take Amazon has partnered with local companies like up in the mountain in Cascade and McCall and Council and places like that. These small towns that are underserved for package delivery. And so we actually run routes where we take we'll take packages up and we'll drop 100 packages off at a local business, and then that local business goes and delivers them out to whoever they're delivering them to, or the people come into
They're
their
like a
store.
smaller version of Boise Route Works.
Yeah, exactly. So we just started doing that maybe a month ago, and that's been really fun. It's
So
you talk about opportunities for our drivers. That's a killer gig. Only our top of the top drivers get that gig now because it's such a cake deal. They drive up to Cascade or make the loop around, maybe make a couple stops and then come home, and it's a good gig for them. And so all of our drivers are scrambling to get that gig. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of Audible, I'm guessing, or podcasts. Hopefully, they're listening to
Yeah.
this right here.
Yeah.
So,
Hopefully.
so
Yeah.
just super fast to kind of set the tone here. So, like you read an article in the paper, you apply. Months later, you get a response. Rapid fire, you're the guy. You're running a business now that Amazon's contracting you for. You built that business up to 200 employees. Like, I know there was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to get that 200 employees going and learning all the stuff. And I know it was basically a beta program for Amazon, so they were learning and changing and tweaking. So let's just talk leadership super fast. Like, how did you continue to grow and build yourself up as a leader?
Honestly, I think it's through who you associate yourself with, number one, and having good people around you that are not afraid to help you learn how to be a good leader or a better leader in some cases. I think the thing that you've taught me, Chase, is you always keep your ears open and you're always listening, and you're willing to be like, hey, I've never heard that before, and that is not my personality. My personality, again, is put your head down and charge through the wall. Mine's not listening and trying to figure out how to be better. So I think having people like yourself and different people that are similar to you in my life has really helped me from that standpoint, because it helps me. It helps not only listen how to be a good leader, but in my opinion, probably the most important part about being a good leader is being a good listener, and listening not just to other leaders, but listening to the people that you're leading, and so that you can make sure that you're doing the things that you need to be doing to best support them and remove those roadblocks that are standing in their path. So I feel like just having people around me, being aware that I need to be a better leader, and really trying to do that, I think are the things that have been key for me in how I try to lead people. I've learned a lot of hard lessons along the way, though. There's things, one of my challenges in the Caterpillar world and in the beginnings of my entrepreneur leadership, I feel like I'm a trusting person. I want to trust people, and I want to have good people by my side, and I have tried to continually do that. But at the same time, if you kind of set that down, and if you forget it and don't pay any attention to it, or continue to nourish that, then eventually that goes bad. And I've had experiences in the past where it's like, no, you can't. I don't want to be a micromanager. I don't want to be a micro leader. I think those are two different things. And certainly I've had examples of those in my life. But at the same time, if you don't want to be that, if you don't want to be a micromanager, that does not mean that you have to go to the other extreme, where you're just trying to place the best people in the best places and leave them alone and never do anything with them. And I think
There's a balance, right? That's
there's
what
a
you're saying.
balance. There's a balance in it, and I feel like, I don't know. I feel like those probably were the biggest leadership lessons that I've learned in terms of that. Are surrounding that method of management, or leadership, however you want to put it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So, open your ears, listen to what other people are doing, be open-minded to feedback yourself, and then,
Yeah.
you know,
I've never been the guy that's reading a bunch of books about leadership. I want to listen to leaders talk. I really enjoy podcasts and things along those lines, because it's leaders talking, like how we're talking now. We're just having a conversation versus. And I know, and I'm not saying anything about books, because I know you really enjoy leadership books. And I enjoy some of them as well, just not to the level that you like it. I'd rather listen to someone just talk and have a conversation than read a book, because that's when, in my opinion, that's where the true gems come out.
well, this is where I know we've been having a conversation here, but I'm gonna speed it up a little bit, just in the interest of time. Let's, 30 seconds or less on a couple of these questions, and then we'll land the plane here. We'll wrap it up. So, what are some principles or filters you've used to guide the biggest decisions you've made? Because you made a lot of big decisions, like opening a franchise with your wife, and I'm sure you could have easily been the husband that's like, "We're not doing that; it's too risky." Same with starting Boise Route Works, and I know you've got other companies we haven't even talked about yet. So what are some principles you use or filters you use to guide those decisions?
Yeah, I think does it fit with what we're doing? I'm a proponent of vertical integration, and most of the businesses that I'm engaged in a day-to-day basis are vertical integration companies. So we have a delivery business that operates a large fleet of vans. So I have to maintain those vans. I might as well maintain them myself. I have to put tires on these vans. I might as well do my own tire business. I need rental vans all the time. We might as well do our own rental business. Things along those lines. That has been the number one decision maker for me in terms of the businesses that I've started. But also, what's the scalability of some of those things? Are they just something that's meant to support my own operations, or is it something we can expand to others? I think the industry is important as well. I have a fixation on industry. There's a lot of people that I talk to, that I'm talking to about business, or talk to me about business or opportunities that come up. And a lot of them I'm just like, it's just not something that I'm interested in. I want to be part of something that is of interest to me. And I'm not suggesting that package delivery was interesting to me, but the way that all that works, and being the Amazon ecosystem is very interesting to me, what they've done with that and how they've created this entire ecosystem within their original concept of selling books online. I think that's really interesting. Delivering packages doesn't really bring me a lot of joy, other than during Christmas time. It really is so much fun to go and deliver packages. Like on Christmas Eve, I do that usually every year. Just put packages in my truck and go deliver them. That usually is so much fun because 90% of the times it's Christmas presents and people are excited. They're getting them. And you get to talk to people and stuff like that. And people are so nice to delivery drivers. Like, for the most part, they leave candy out, or they'll come out with a loaf of bread or something like that. It's so fun.
Yeah, we have a whole shelf of like drinks and snacks and all
Yeah,
that stuff. So,
they deserve it.
um,
Those guys are working so hard this time of the year, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
So hard.
So I love that vertical integration. That's great. I like your description of it too. It just gives some people some ideas. So you mentioned you like podcasts. Is there any specific podcasts you want to shout out or that you really enjoy?
I listen to podcasts based on the guest. So this episode might not get a lot of listens, but I listen to Joe Rogan when he has interesting people who I view
Me
as
too.
leaders.
Yeah.
I listen. Funny enough, I listen to Theo Vaughn. I think he's a very introspective guy when he has the right people on. One of my
He's
favorite podcast
hilarious.
shows I've ever listened to is Theo Vaughn, when he had Mike Rowe on, and them talking about manufacturing and the importance of manufacturing within the U.S. economy, and how it relates to the economy today, and what it would take to. We always talk about onshoring manufacturing, but we're nowhere close to being able to do that structurally within the United States, or from an employment standpoint. We're not set up to do that. So I find things like that really, really interesting.
Awesome. So
So
you're
I'm
channel
probably listening
surfing
to
for the
20 or
right
30
guests.
different podcasts. What's that?
No, no, that's good. You're channel surfing for the right guests. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. It's just maybe I'm like I'm probably like what do they call them? The millennial, that like the short content. Like, I can't listen to every Joe Rogan podcast because I go crazy. Number one, they're like 3 hours long, but I'm just not interested in some of the guests.
Yeah,
I'm interested in people that
I can understand.
are doing are
So
doing something.
so let's keep going then. Is there any like best advice you've ever received? Like when I say that, what comes to your mind?
The best advice I ever received, and best and the not the best, the advice that I give to my two boys the most, and what I think is are my golden rules. I tell my boys all the time, and I feel like I share this as much as possible. If you are two things in life, you will inevitably be successful. If you are a good person, and you're good to people, I think I'm sorry, and you work hard, you will be okay. I think too often we're not hard workers. I think too often we mistake that for something else. We need to be hard. That is not out there like shoveling dirt all day. That is not the only example of hard work. Hard work is being thoughtful, being paying attention, is being engaged. It's all those different things. So if you're a hard worker and you are a good person, and whatever that means to you, it's different for everyone. But if you're a hard worker and a good person, you're going to be okay. And that's the rules that I try to live by, and the rules that I don't give my boys a ton of advice like that. I'd rather be engaged with them, but I do tell them that every single time. If you ask them today what are Dad's two rules, it is be a good person and be a hard worker, and we measure everything off of that, whether that's their schoolwork or how they're doing just in life.
I love that, man. I love that. So as we're wrapping this up, and you can tell me if you want to keep this in or not, but is there any way that you'd like people to follow or connect with you in any way, or is that not important to you?
I love meeting people. I love being engaged with people. One of the highlights of my month is our mastermind group, and participating in that and getting with like-minded people. I am not on YouTube. I will doom scroll on Instagram and Facebook or whatever, but just looking at other people's stuff. I maybe posted something a couple of years ago or something along those lines, so I'm not really
Well,
active on
if
those things.
someone wanted to reach out, would you want them to reach out to you on
I'm on all
Instagram
those
or?
platforms. I'm on LinkedIn as well, and I love interacting with people. I love talking with people. I love working with people. It is something that I really enjoy doing. My biggest hang up or my biggest fear in life is networking. I am not the guy to go and be the life of a party or anything along those lines. But I love talking to people. I love having conversations. I love doing all that. So
So
if they want
LinkedIn,
to
go
find me
find
on
Jason on LinkedIn. I'll find the best link for you. I'll put it in the
Mhm.
description on our YouTube channel, so you guys can connect with Jason on LinkedIn there. And I guess as we round this out, to wrap this up, this has been great. You've dropped a ton of nuggets, whether you believe it or not. You have. There's been a ton of great stuff. What's one takeaway or a challenge you would leave with the audience? Is there anything you'd like to leave?
Besides the work hard and be a good person
That
thing,
was great, dude. We can mic drop right there if you want. So if you want to triple, quadruple down on work hard and be a good person,
yeah.
that's a good message. So
Well, I mean, I definitely want to triple down on that because I do. That is something that I deeply believe in. But also, I think one of the changing moments for me is when I started doing what you're suggesting for people to do. When I started interacting with people, when I started using my voice to say what I wanted or to convey whatever my message is at the time, opportunities started showing up like crazy. When you put yourself out there, putting yourself out there doesn't have to mean that you're going to be in the life of the party. It's just being there, being engaged in conversations or being willing to have conversations. I think that's where a lot of opportunities come from today. Uh, People ask me that all the time. They're like, how do you get all the opportunities that you get? I'm like, well, like you just meet people and you talk with them and you say, hey, this is you explain to them kind of what you're doing. They explain what they're doing. And then when an opportunity comes up, then you're going to be the person that they call to be like, hey, what do you think about this? Whether that's just, I meet with people all the time just they want to run an idea past, not for me to invest in it, but just running an idea past. And I absolutely love doing those things, that type of work. And so I think just put yourself out there. And if you're looking for opportunities, all you have to do, not all, but a lot of it comes from just putting yourself out there. And you got to have all the work done beforehand. You got to be in the right position to do it, obviously. But you got to put yourself out there and at least be willing to listen and be heard.
So put yourself out there, and then I'll quadruple down on it while you're working hard and being a good person, and good things happen. So I just want to thank you so much, Jason, for joining me on the Not a Financial Advisor podcast. I truly appreciate it. I appreciate your friendship, and
Yeah.
just when we've had partnership opportunities, it's been phenomenal, and you're a great person who.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. Have an
Appreciate it.
amazing day.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to the Not a Financial Advisor podcast. This episode helped you think differently. Share it with someone you think would benefit. Remember, your potential grows when you do. We'll see you at the next one.